Hi there, this is Malay and welcome back to my channel. Well, in today's video, let's take a look at how do we work and invoke the REST API in Power Automate Desktop. So to understand this REST API concept, what we're going to be doing is we will be taking a help of the JSON placeholder.typecode.com, which is nothing but the JSON placeholder API resource available on the internet that helps you to understand it, basic functionality. How can you use a get method? How can you actually use a post method? How can you use put method? And how can you use the delete method? So these are different methods available. And that is a very simple example to start understanding these concepts. Now, in terms of a real REST API, of course, you can have a key, you can have a token. So depending on the call, you can acquire these keys and these tokens and can represent that in the request header depending on how the API is shaped up. Now in this case we're going to be using a simple API and you can see that we have different posts available. So if you copy this and paste it here, you will see that there's a host of posts available. So then this makes all these posts available, and if you would like to go for a specific post, you can put, let's say, number 1, and that should give you the user ID 1 and ID 1. So it is the first post. So this is actually a get method because you are essentially looking to get all the posts. So now let's go ahead and retrieve these posts. Open the HTTP and go for invoke web service. Drag and drop that. In the URL, please provide this URL, which is /posts. It's a get URL, and the accept is not the XML. It would usually be the JSON, and this is the case here. So it is, instead of XML, put JSON. In the request body, we will not have anything because it's more of a get method. It just returns the item. And in the custom header, we don't have to provide anything. Save responses into a web page or save to the disk. We'll keep it a web page. It will give you a response header, a response itself, which is the response body, and a status code. 200 and 201 are the status code for the success. So let's click on save. And let's click run. It will invoke the web service and store the result. And there we see we have a status code 200 and the web service response that we have got. And that's the response which we saw also in the browser. Now, how will you actually use this response? So you will of course use JSON to custom object. So you convert JSON to the custom object and you can provide the web service response. Click save. Let's click run and we will have the JSON as a custom object also stored. So you can see now we have got the response into the JSON. You can click on more and you can see this. So the way you can access the value of individual name, attribute, and a value pair is using the JSON as a custom object. And then let's say if you want to access the fourth element, you will say fourth and then ID. That is how you will also be able to get the individual value from here. Let's drag and drop set variable and let's just call it as var title. In the value we will take as JSON custom object. Here you will say 1 and then we will go with the title. Okay, so that will give us the title of the very first returned value. Let's verify the title is in small case. Yes, it is indeed in small case. Let's run this. You can see the var title has returned QSSA, and let's validate that. That is number here. It is the second item in this case, of course, so that's why it's number 1, and you can see the title is returned. So that's how you can access the value. If you want to create a resource, of course, you will need to go with the post method. Earlier we saw the get method, and in the post method you will have to have a request body. You can see it is indicated through body, and then you also have to pass the headers, request headers. So let's go ahead and make a slight change. In the invoke web service, edit this. Instead of get, now we will say post because we are going to create a post accept application JSON. That's correct. In the custom header, grab this. So we'll say, let's copy this for now. Let's put it here. We need to make sure that we remove the single quote application JSON and character. That's fine. In the request body, let's go ahead and use this request body. We need to get the opening and closing bracket. Let's make some change, and user ID is going to be, let's say, 1001, and just to make a change it's foo1 bar 1. Okay, Now there's one more important area that we need to consider is open the advanced and make sure that you don't encode the request body, because sometimes it encodes the request body if there are certain characters and the request will fail. Now in this case we should be good to go. Click on save, click run. Let's wait for the call to happen, and we can see status code is 500. That means something has gone wrong. Well, what we need to do is, let's go ahead and instead of this, verify what actually post returns. So when we go with this, we actually have 4 different attributes, and here in the example we just have 3 attributes. I'm not really sure, but in this case what we had to do is we should provide 4 different attributes. Let's go ahead and put this instead inside the opening and closing brackets. Now this should really be fine, and instead of this, let me go ahead and give a title as the test title. The ID will be, let's say, 001, and the ID is also 001, and this is again it's going to be the test body. Let's just go with this. Let's save and let's rerun to see if now this works. This should really work now, and you can see the status code 201. That means it is successfully executed, and you can see we also have got the response, user ID, ID, title, and the body. Now in this case, let's go ahead and edit this, and now what we're going to be doing is we'll make the edit to an item. That means we will be updating a resource. When you want to update, certainly you would like to update the specific post. In this case, we'll have to provide the post ID, provide number 3. That means we would like to update the post number 3. So let's provide this again, user ID 1, ID 1 in the title. Let's go ahead and say that updated title, and in the body, let's go ahead and say that this is the updated body, dated body. So this should be fine. Let's click on save and let's click on run. Let's wait for the REST API to invoke, and you can see that we now have a successful message, and you can see we have the updated details also coming forward. Now the next is of course the delete. In this case, let's go and change from put to delete. Let's see what we need to pass there. Let's go to the documentation, and you can see that we have deleting a resource. So you can see the method is simply delete, and that's all we need to provide. There is no need for any other request body or request header. So let's remove this and let's keep number 3. Click on save, let's click run, and that will essentially delete the 3rd number of post. You can see that we have web service response. Of course we don't have anything, but the status code is 200. That indicates that it is successfully executed. Now of course all this is a fake operation behind as provided by the website, and just like the put, you can also use a patch. In the patch you can provide a similar body. You can only provide the values that you would like to update in the patch, and make sure that you also provide the which post that you would like to update, and simply pass on those values and execute that action. That would simply work. So I hope this basic simple example helped you to understand the concept of using the REST API and use the different methods available in the Power Automate desktop. As I said, in the real scenario, you might want to have your key, your tokens acquired first, which you need to send in the subsequent request, which you can add it into the request header. Well, I thank you so much for watching this video.